Hello.
Uh,
How's it going, Olivia?
Good. How are you?
Good. I mean, like, obviously, I know everything that's in the release, right? But when I sit through this call and I was just like backstage, you're just like, wow, there's actually a lot in this release. And I was reading through the release notes this morning. It just makes me super excited.
I know. I feel the exact same. There's always so much more than you think, even. And I mean, we like that was just like three people's demos, right? That's just like I feel like touching the surface of everything that's in the release.
I know, right?
Check out the release notes for sure, y'all, to see like everything that's in it. But I totally agree. I feel like people, right, we're in the product every day, so we kind of like feel like we are an expert. But there's always just so many things like, oh my god, I totally forgot about that, or oh yeah, that made it into this release. So yeah, we get excited about it too, y'all.
It's so fun. I mean, like, literally, like, I go to stand up. I look at all the merge pull requests every day. I use VS Code every day, VS Code Insiders, and like I still manage to miss things. So
Yeah.
we're gonna share a screen.
And then Pierce, I know probably most people know who you are, but if you could just give like a super quick intro in case we have any new folks on the call for
Yeah, I'm Pierce. I'm the product lead for VS Code. So I joined the VS Code team last December. I love engaging with all of you on Twitter. So I'm at Pierce Boggan on Twitter. I'm also on Reddit from time to time. So yeah, if there's ever any feedback you have about the product, of course, you can use our regular channels like GitHub issues. But we also look at all the YouTube stream comments. We look at Twitter. We look at Reddit. We look at Hacker News. So if there's any feedback you ever have, please don't hesitate to reach out. Also, this is awkward, but I have to restart Edge. We can just read permissions. So I'll be right back.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay. Well, in the meantime, what I actually want to do then, because we were just talking about this anyways, is just go through our release note again. So let me go ahead and share my screen out real quick. Just so y'all can see everything that we're talking about, right? Because as Pierce said, there is so much more than you think. And there's actually, if y'all haven't kind of been in the release notes in a little bit, we even kind of changed the format a little bit. So we made it a little bit clearer of some key highlights that you can jump to really quickly. And so you can see where actually we've already covered some of these, right? So letting VS Code select the best model with auto model that new just demoed. And then this contribute models through VS Code extensions is actually what we're about to talk with Pierce and friends as well. So yeah, definitely check out these release notes. There's a whole list that you can go here. And then as Pierce said, like feel free to reach out to him, reach out to me, reach out to anyone you've seen on the call today. And we're always happy to kind of have that conversation with y'all as well. I think Pierce is back with that.
I think question mark. I'm sharing my screen to StreamYard now, so we should be good to go. Do
Yeah.
you introduce what I'm gonna be showing off?
No, I did like a quick little teaser while you were off. So if you want to kind of really give the overview, Pierce, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So we're just in chat here. Actually, like I was joking with Cynthia, who's on our team, like right before this, like I was literally using agent mode to fix a bug in my demo. I was like, how much more time do I have? So I got something going right here already. But I'm in agent mode. So we just saw news show off auto mode. So that's in the product. We recently shipped GPT-5, GPT-5 Mini, Grok Code. We have Gemini 2.5 Pro. These are all the provided models you get with your Copilot subscription. I think it's pretty cool. You get all that for $10 a month, right? Or more, depending on your plan. And also BT dubs. If your model picker doesn't look the same as mine, you can go manage models here, Copilot, and you can actually like go in and say, oh, I never use like O4 Mini or whatever, right? Okay, let me just get it out of my list. Like, and so for me, these models are like my daily drivers and increasingly like auto, right? For the reasons that News showed off. But like it's very common that people want to use models that we don't have in the box. So how do we enable that? So bring your own key. So we've had bring your own key for a while. So if you go to click the models drop down, this looks like a bug. Look at that theming difference. See, this is also why I love the live streams, Olivia. I get a little yeah.
Yeah, it's like magnified. As soon as you like demo to a wider audience, you like immediately see like little bugs and little things that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. We're hiring for like a product manager right now, and someone asked me to describe our philosophy, and I was well, it's kind of like I used to be an advocate, a dev advocate back in the day when I worked at Xamarin. And it's kind of like advocacy driven product management. Like we take the product, we go show it off. We have our own learnings from building the demos. Like customers give us feedback, developers give us feedback from the VS Code community, and we make the product better in that way. But anyways, this list, if you've used this before, has gotten a lot longer. So before we used to have like some built-in BYOK providers. When I say BYOK, I'm just saying bring your own key. Kind of like bring your own beer, BYOB. I guess
Love
well, yeah. Love it. Burke and I are big fans of 0% beers. So if you know any good ones, please send them to us. But we had some model providers already in here. So we had like Azure, Anthropic, Olama, OpenRouter, Google for Gemini. So like we had some built in. But I think we realized this process doesn't scale, right? So a couple problems. Like one, we have to personally go and write a provider for each like different possible provider that exists on planet Earth. That is obviously quite expensive. We would frequently get feedback like, oh, like, why don't you add these people or why don't you change this so that this works? And it's like, we would love to do that, but there's just such a long tail. Like, there's so much happening in this space that like the amount of providers we would have to support is it's like insane, right?
Right.
So that doesn't scale. And the second reason is like, while we read docs and we try to understand like the different providers that we integrate with, like it's hard for us to say we're going to write as good as an open router provider as the open router team who understands all the nuances of their APIs, what exactly to show off. We wanted to basically say, how can we enable the community to contribute models to GitHub Copilot? And so we've introduced this new bring your own key API. And so essentially you can build a VS Code extension and you can ship that VS Code extension. And basically once you do that, it can contribute a language model to GitHub Copilot. So you can see I have a couple on my list here and they'll show up here. And then so you can see I have like Cerebrus, Hugging Face, AI Toolkit. Those are new as of today. And so those are extension contributed bring your own key providers. So those aren't actually built into VS Code or GitHub Copilot chat, but they're actually coming from an extension you've installed, which is pretty cool.
Cool. So you literally just can go install the extension as normal and it'll show up in the
That's right.
window
Yeah.
already. Cool.
Yeah. So look, the Hugging Face people have been updating. Look at that beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
But like I just installed that right before. So they're doing like lots of live updates. But like
Yeah, so I think that that's a really cool thing to call out too, right? It's like not just is it on the VS Code team when we were managing all the different providers, like, okay, we need to figure out are we going to do it as well, but it would take us longer as well too, right? Whereas the Hugging Face team is just they're able to just do this right now. We get those updates right away. You don't
even if we had the time, like
Right.
they usually can ship whenever. If there's a bug, it's on the release train whenever you ship an extension up. Whereas VS Code, like while we ship insiders every day, we don't ship stable that often. So if there's a problem in stable, like sure we'll if it's a major issue, we'll get into a recovery release, but not always. So yeah, it's super cool. Like here's this Cerebrus extension. So like one bit on discoverability, you might be like, Pierce, that's cool, but like how the heck would I know to go install the Cerebrus extension because it's not immediately obvious from this managed models experience. So I can come in and I can basically go, I want to show like the ideal experience we're working towards. Okay. So, you know, if you go to the color picker, like we have like browse additional color themes up here and you can kind of search. And this is actually fetching real themes from the VS marketplace, right? And we also have some built-in ones here. And then we populate with some like other ones that are kind of popular from the community. So we want something similar here where I could type like for BYOK, I could type like Cerebrus. And even though it's not like showing by default in this list right here, it will actually get populated in. So the idea is like even for extensions contributing models, we want it to feel like it's built in. And then we'll do the work to make the discoverability of these things better over time.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I love that flow. Do you have any sort of like insight onto like when that sort of flow might land?
Well, hopefully this next month. We have actually an upcoming VS Code team week. The whole VS Code team's getting together. We're kind of all over the place between Europe and the US. And so we're all getting together for kind of our annual thing next week, actually. So this month is a little bit of a weird month in terms of commitments for delivery because we have a lot of people traveling and we obviously, when we're together, want to spend time together. So yeah, we'll see. But the plan should be up on Monday and I'm hoping we can do this. There's some
In the near future, though, at least for this like a 6 months out thing.
No, it's not. And if it's going to take that long, I'll type it something and submit PR. But I also like we could do like a little filter thing here too, like in the marketplace where like a category, maybe we already have it. No, we don't. Like a language model or something. So that
Yeah, that's a tag for language models.
exactly. So I thought, what better way to show off the bring your own key stuff than a personal extension I built using this new bring your own key API.
I love it.
I'll actually explain how I did this. We have an extension samples repo for the VS Code team. It's public. And there's a chat provider sample. It kind of has the basic, building blocks of what you want with like a fake provider. So I basically took that and then I wrote a prompt file and I basically said, okay, how would I transform this sample to work for any provider, right? Okay, step one, like I need to give the provider the models. Okay, so what are the docs that this provider has? How do I actually integrate with it? Is it OpenAI compatible, right? Does it need an API key? Okay, if it needs an API key, we need to put it in secure storage, right? And so I just basically defined a prompt file. And then it was really cool because I've actually been like exploring building a lot of these providers because it's actually pretty formulaic. And so this is like a cool use case for the prompt file stuff where it's a repeatable scenario that I'm like kind of running through again and again. And then of course, like it's not perfect. I have to do some tweaks for each provider, but it gets like the initial implementation done, which is pretty neat. So basically there's like a couple different things. Okay, we need to fetch the models that show up in the list, makes sense. So we have some basic like, you know, HTTPS requests here to actually fetch the models, pass tokens. Then we have to map kind of the fireworks data structure model to like ours. And that basically gets all the actual models that you show in the dropdown, which I'll show in a second. And then there's like other stuff you have to wire up, like basically like how does the actual, let's see, yeah, provide language model chat response. So this is like actually the part where we form a request to Fireworks is the provider that I built in this case. And we actually, okay, handled the chat request. Because when you use Bring Your Own Key, Olivia, it's actually talking directly to that provider that you've configured from client, right? There are some situations where it goes to the GitHub API, like for example, intent detection. Like if you're in ask mode, like if we, how we have the participants like Azure, Abstract, or whatever. So that thing will still hit the cloud endpoint. So we don't say like 100% like it's only talking to your thing. But like for the meat and potatoes of what's actually happening in chat, it's using your thing. So you have to actually go pipe that logic in, right? That's what I'm doing here, or I guess agent mode did for me here. um, yeah, let's actually run this thing.
So kind of on that note too, like, because I know at times like one of the challenges too is like if you're just talking to the provider, then like having VS Code kind of ingest like the response correctly in like a user friendly way because some things can turn different responses and like error
Yep.
codes and things like that. Is that all part of this API as well too? So you can kind of make sure you're ingesting, giving like friendly messages if needed when you're talking.
Exactly. Yeah. So if there's like any weirdness that you want to handle with your provider, you can do that. I'll give a really good example. Like pretty much every provider says we're OpenAI compatible as like the way we talk to LLMs back and forth, right? In practice, like that may be largely true, but every single provider we found has like little nuances of like, oh, like this is an empty array when it should have been null or something like that, right? And those are little things that like we're always gotchas first when we're building these providers. So it's not quite as simple as, oh, like it's the same OpenAI compatible like logic, right, for each thing. So each provider has like little nuances in how they can put it. Speaking of new features, Olivia, I'm gonna detour. This is a classic Pierce detour. Look at the chat. Did we show this off in the stream yet? Look at this. I'm in chat. I can see a history of my past messages. So I think this is actually a new setting, empty state history. So to show recent chat history on empty state. So
We have not known this yet. This is great.
okay, cool. Yeah, I love doing these demos because you just like are like, oh, I should probably show that off. Like you could always get to this via this history button that was like up here. But like often like we had all this like white space just from a UX kind of consideration standpoint. We're like, well, like a lot of times I do want to like return back to a previous place I was, right? And so it just kind of makes sense that we expose that there. And also a lot of people told us, why doesn't chat support history? And we're like, we do.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Anyways, okay, so I built this extension. I'm gonna go look at all these bring your own key things. So anything below this, like this indicator right here, is all bring your own key stuff. So I have stuff from different providers. So I have DeepSeek, I have GPT OSS, like a local model. I'll talk about the custom OAI thing in a second. I have Grok CodeFast 1, not the one that we provide in Copilot, but directly hitting the XAI APIs. I have this from from Hugging Face. And then I'll show off how I got this one. So I come in here. I've just built this Fireworks AI provider. And so this is kind of the logic that I wrote for my extension, right? Like, okay, I'd say, what is the name? Okay, Fireworks. Okay, that shows in the first list. Then I actually hit the Fireworks API to populate all the models. And you can see here, like, this is where it's like, it's useful to know the provider and be the provider to write this because I have like a lot of other random things in my provider list here. So I'll just kind of come in. I have this model selected in DeepSeek. I don't know how I say this. Like, it's a very popular model in OSS, like Kimi, something like
I would
this.
say Jimmy, but yeah, now that you said that, I don't know if that's actually how you're supposed to say it.
So then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to like, I select that model and I'll just say, like, let's just do a simple test. Hello. And so what this is actually doing is this is going in, it's going to be a little slow because I'm debugging an extension, right? And actually hitting this, but this is actually, yeah, this is going to form a request to Kimi K2 instruct on Fireworks, hosted on Fireworks, and actually return a response back to me. And of course, like if the model supports tool calling, it would also show an ask mode in this case, or sorry, an agent mode. In this case, it does. And so I could just go in and also use it in agent mode if I want. So
Very cool.
Yeah, this is super easy API to work with. And so if there's like, an inference provider that you're like, I would really love to use that inside of VS Code, like go build an extension, ship it.
Mhm.
I love this because it's like the classic ethos of VS Code, right? Like choose your own adventure, extensions, like make it your own, right? Like that's why I love the customization features we have for things like chat with chat modes, prompt files, stuff like that. And now like with the bring your own key stuff, it's also like choose your own adventure, right? Like whatever exactly setup you want, VS Code enables you to get that.
Yeah, developer choice, all about it. And just to iterate, 'cause I don't know if we, like, explicitly said that, so we kinda refer to this, like, AKI as, like, BYOK, right? So BYOK API. Just so if you're looking through our docs, it is officially called the Language Model Chat Provider API. So if you're like, "Why can I not find a good BYOK API?" It's called the Language Model Chat Provider API. So just
Hashtag branding.
call that, yeah. So I want to call that out. If anyone's in the docs and is like, "Wait, what is this actually?" So BYOK is how we're gonna be referring to it.
And I'm very conscious of the fact that like we use a lot of acronyms at Microsoft and I try not to use them. Although in this case, I think it's somewhat self-explanatory. For me, one final thing, and then we're gonna bring on a guest.
Cool.
I mentioned this custom OpenAI compatible endpoint thing. So I mentioned that many of these providers actually speak OpenAI compatible syntax in terms of their API for talking to their models. And so we have this new OpenAI compatible option here. And so you can basically go in and if a provider is not supported, if you don't want to go build an extension, which you should, your break glass in case of emergency is this OpenAI compatible option. Now it's using, like I said, every provider is a little different in how they write this implementation. So it may not work amazing for your provider. And so that's the kind of the benefit of the extension path. But if you're like, I really need to test this and I don't have support for it, you can do that. So if I actually go to my settings and I go to OpenAI compatible models, you can see basically here that I can come in and I can specify other models. So in this case, I'm saying like another one I did fireworks directly to the API. So you can see I have to supply the URL here. And then I just supply some information about the model. So like, what's the name? What's the input, output tokens? Does it support tool calling? So if that was false, it wouldn't show an agent mode, right? Does it require an API key? Does it support vision, right? And so you just go in and kind of fill this out. It does support API keys. So if your provider requires API keys, the first time you use this model, we'll actually prompt you to give us the API key. We'll put it in secure storage locally, right? And then you can use it. So this is like your break class in case of emergency. The one nuance with this is only available on VS Code Insiders right now. This didn't go to stable with us today. It was in Insiders last month. We found some issues in our testing during in-game. Just want to make sure it's a really good experience before we push it out to stable. So there is like a little nuance of like you might have some issues with it. And if you do, please file a bug so we can make sure it's really, really good and we get into the next stable. So yeah, that's bring your own key.
That sounds awesome. Before we move into kind of our partner here, there's one question I think you're very well suited to answer just while you're here, Pierce. But Matthias asks, you mentioned experimental settings. A lot of times we see settings are experimental. What's the difference between using VS Code Insiders, which you just mentioned, experimental settings, and the regular settings? If you could just clear that up real quick.
Something we're trying to do better about on the VS Code team is like our settings, like expansion. Like there are so many settings. It's hard to keep track of them. It's hard to understand like what state they're in, what that state means. The defaults often like it's like I can't tell you how many times, Olivia, I get in a call with somebody or I'm on Twitter and someone's like, why doesn't VS Code support this? And it's like, it feels like a facepalm to me, right? Because like we have it and we're not doing a good job exposing it behind some setting, right? And so experimental means we've just added this thing and it could change. So actually a really good example is we added specific auto approvals for terminal. So you can apply a regex expression and basically say like, these are safe, don't allow these, right? So we actually iterated on that setting over the course of a month or two and things changed, right? And it broke. And so experimental basically means this setting, we're still figuring this out, right? And it could break. And experimental settings can go to stable. If we want kind of a broader population of feedback on that setting, or we think it's sufficient that it can be advanced to stable, we'll keep it experimental and move it to stable. And maybe it's off by default, right? Then we have preview, right? Which is kind of the next stage of like, okay, this is like something we feel really good about. We're probably going to finalize soon as a setting or just build it in as a default behavior. And then finally, right, like it's a GA thing. And we kind of think about preview and GA features. So specific with Copilot, if you're in a big team, there's a policy that your admin probably has called editor preview features. We basically have to declare these are the preview features we have. So like auto is a good example. That's a preview feature. And so if your enterprise has disabled preview features, some of these features you won't show up. So there's also some accounting we have to do so that like people who want to kind of trial these features in their enterprise before they actually roll them out can do so without it just being immediately available to everyone. that was a long-winded answer, but that's kind of like how we're thinking about settings right now.
No, I think that's super helpful. I'm glad that you're able to answer that. And that was the perfect time to ask that question, Matthias. So thank you for doing that.